Welcome back from your spooky Halloween weekend. Mr. Poley here checking in and about to be going over your quest. Unit 2 quest. I'm going to go through, explain each of the questions, and this will be for anybody looking to understand these questions better. And this is also a requirement to watch this video if you wish to retake your quest. Okay, this will be what you do to retake your quest. Watch this video to hear my explanations for the questions you got wrong in the hopes that you will be able to understand those concepts, some terms better, that you'll be able to improve for your retake. So if you are taking the time to do that, way to go. Okay, that's what I hope to see from everybody that is not happy with their quest grade. Okay, if you're given the option to retake it to show that you improve and that you're trying to understand better, that is awesome. So kudos to you. All right, let's get started here. Okay, number 1, if g of x equals 3x plus 7, then which of the following is the solutions to g of x equals 1? So this was one of the most common questions that was answered wrong on the quest. Okay, and the reason for it was because not everybody, but a lot of people saw g of x equals 1 and thought, oh, x equals 1, so I'm going to evaluate this function for x equals 1. But we have moved past just simply evaluating a function. Okay, that was what Unit 1 was about. We're moving on from that. So it's not just a matter of taking 1 and plugging it in for x. That's not what we're doing here. We are given the function value, g of x equals 1, and we need to find the value of x that makes the function equal 1. So we're given the output already. This is our output value, our function value, or our y value. We need to find the corresponding x value, or input value. Okay, so g of x equals 1. I'm substituting 1 for g of x. So I have 1 equals 3x plus 7. Now we solve for x. A two-step equation here, I would subtract 7 from both sides, get negative 6 equals 3x. Then the last thing there would be to divide by 3 on both sides to get x equals negative 2. Okay, if you plugged in 1 for x, you would have got choice 3. And again, that was the most common wrong answer. Okay, so we're finding the x value given a function value, not just evaluating the function. It's not just a matter of substituting in for x. Okay, we can do that. We know we can do that. Before we pass that here. All right, number 2, for the function shown below, which of the following represents its domain? So we're given 4 different intervals, and we're asked to find which one represents the domain here. So first of all, remember, domain is our x values. Okay, and I always showed find your minimum x value right there and find your maximum x value right there. And watch how this works. My minimum x, let's see, is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Negative 5 is my minimum x. And my maximum x, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is 6. All right, so we're focused on either 1 or 3. Okay, negative 4 and 4, those were range values, only up and down. But we're going left to right with our x as our domain. So we have negative 5, 6 or negative 5, 6. What's the difference between those? Well, our first one has a straight bracket around negative 5 and a curved bracket or parentheses around 6. And choice 3 is the opposite of that. Okay, so one of those brackets means a value is included. One of those brackets means a value is not included. Well, if you'll notice, look at our graph here. One of the endpoints of our function is an open circle, or this unfilled in circle, this white circle, white dot, white point. And on the other end, we have a filled in circle, or a black point. Okay? So this unfilled in circle here means that point is not included. That means that point is included. So -5, when x is -5, that is not part of the domain, which means this should be choice 3. That curved bracket means -5 is not included, but the domain goes all the way through then to 6, including 6. Okay, 6 is included, -5 is not. Curved bracket for -5, straight bracket for 6. Number 3, a function f of x is 1 to 1 and is defined by the set. There's the set. Which of the following could be the value of k? So in order to answer this question, you need to know what is a one-to-one function. And a one-to-one function is a function that does not have repeating y values. There are no repeated outputs. So our outputs here, our y's are 7, -1, k, 8, and 11. So in order for this to be 1 to 1, this k cannot be one of the values we already have. So k can't be -1, k can't be 11. Do I see a 2 in any y values? No. So that means 2 can be the value of k, and that will make this a one-to-one function. Right, in our fourth choice, 7, that is one of our y values. Number 4, this was a bit of a tricky one. If f of x equals the negative square root of x minus 5, and h of x equals 2/3 x squared plus x, then which of the following is the value of h of f of 41? Here we are working with a composition of functions, one function inside another. Two functions composed together to get one value. So if I have f of 41, I'm going to start with my f of x function. F of 41. Remember, you work from the inside out. So f of 41 equals the negative square root of 41 minus 5, which is the negative square root of 36, which equals -6. So that is my first output, which now becomes my second input into my h of x function. So I evaluate now h of -6. Okay, so I've now moved on from my x, or my f of x, I'm working with h of x. Okay, h of -6. And everywhere I see that x, I need to plug in here, keep that in parentheses. Okay, 2/3 times -6 squared plus -6. So the first thing you need to do here is focus on that little input there with the exponent. That exponent happens first. It needs to. It has to happen first. So -6 squared is 36. Because again, that's -6 times -6. So we have 2/3 times 36 minus 6. Which gives us 24 minus 6, which would be choice 2. 18. That's our final output. So that's our value of h of f of 41. Okay, that's the value of that composition of functions. And the last one on this front page, which of the following values of x does not, keyword there, and I did stress to everybody to read carefully, so I hope you guys caught that. Which one does not lie in the domain of y equals 5 times the square root of 10 minus x? Okay, the way I showed to do this, since we are working with a square root function, we know that expression under the square root has to be 0 or more. It can be equal to 0 or it can be greater than 0. It can't be negative though. So I would take 10 minus x and set up a little inequality here. That has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, only then will the values of x's make the function defined. Okay, remember that. Expression underneath has to be greater than or equal to 0. It can't be negative. So I want to solve this now, just like I would if it was an equation. And since I see that I have 10 minus x, I want my x to be positive. So I'm going to add that x over. And I have 10 is greater than or equal to x. And I can rewrite that to be x is less than or equal to 10. So any x value that is equal to 10 or less than 10 can be in that domain. So one of these does not satisfy this. Remember, all our x values that are less than or equal to 10 can be included. So whichever value is greater than 10 is not included. And 11 is greater than 10. So that would not be in the domain of this function. Right? Just one note here. If you subtracted 10 first, you would get negative x is greater than or equal to negative 10. Then the way to solve this is we want a positive x, so you would either divide or multiply by negative 1. And when you do that, working with an inequality, this symbol in the middle reverses because we're dividing or multiplying by a negative. So that symbol would have to reverse to give x is less than or equal to 10, just like we had here. And again, working with inequalities, if you divide or multiply by a negative, that symbol does a nice flip. It reverses direction. All right? That's 1 to 5. Last one here. If h of x is a 1-to-1 function and h of negative 4 equals 6, then which of the following must be a true statement about its inverse function, h inverse of x? Okay, they told us it was 1-to-1 because only if it's 1-to-1 can its inverse be a function. So they were just giving us that to show that its inverse could actually be a function. Okay, remember what this notation represents. H of negative 4 equals 6 gives us the point negative 4, 6. This is on our original function. And remember, an inverse function switches x and y, the old switcheroo. Right? So on our inverse function then, h inverse, we have the point 6, negative 4. 6, negative 4, they just switch. They don't get negated. Okay, we got to get past that misconception. It's just x and y reverse or switch. And that corresponds to number 3, choice 3. All right. Now, jump to number 11. Okay, on to the short answer, the constructed response. We have Evie and Eliette are selling cups of lemonade for 75 cents each. If the amount of money they make, M, selling C cups of lemonade is modeled using a function, then explain why 2 will not be part of this function's range. So why will 2 not be part of this function's range? Okay, let's see. So the amount of money they make, M, selling C cups of lemonade. So which of those things depends on the other? Does the amount of money they make depend on how much they sell? Or does how much they sell depend on how much money they make? Think about that for a second. So it's the amount of money they make. M depends on C. So whichever one is dependent, that's our Y variable, that's our range. Okay, so M, amount of money, M is our range values, range variable. Okay, M is our range. So why then will 2 never be in the range? Well, they're selling cups of lemonade, and how much is each cup? Each cup is 75 cents. So let's see, 1 cup is they make 75 cents. 2 cups, they make $1.50. 3 cups, they make $2.25. So what do you guys notice there? I think most of you guys did notice this, right? But they could never make $2. They will never make $2. They'll make $1.50 and they'll make $2.25. But they will never get an amount of money that will make them have $2. So each cup of lemonade is only 75 cents. So no matter how many cups you sell, that will never add up to $2. Right? 75 cents per cup can never come out to $2. 13 is the function y equals parentheses x minus 4 squared. Is that a one-to-one function? Justify your answer. What do you guys think here? Well, it would be good to notice that this is a quadratic function because of that square, that x is being squared. So this is a quadratic, which means the shape of that graph is a parabola, which means it's a U shape. Will a graph that looks like this, no matter where it's positioned on the graph, no matter which quadrant it's in, will this ever be a one-to-one function? The answer is no, it is not, right? You can see that by the horizontal line test. It fails the horizontal line test because you can draw a horizontal line anywhere and you would hit the graph in 2 places. So that means there are repeated outputs, which means no, that is not one-to-one. Okay, a one-to-one function cannot have repeated outputs. We can see that clearly fails the horizontal line test. Number 14, I'll just mention real quick, gives us a function f of x on the graph here. Create the graph of its inverse. And since I couldn't see your test, I asked you guys to just tell me some of the ordered pairs that you had. Okay, so you want to take all your ordered pairs of your original here. I'll just write down a few. I'm starting right to left. I usually go left to right. Feeling kind of, I guess, I don't know, it's a backwards day maybe. And we have 8, -1, 6, 0. All right, so these are 3 points on our original. So to give the inverse points, we'd have -2, 10, -1, 8, 0, 6. And that would be enough. Those are 3 points that would be on the graph of the inverse. Okay, and I got that by switching the coordinates from our original points. All right. And last one here on the back, I asked everybody to do 15C through E. And that's all based on this graph up here. So C, how many solutions would exist for the equation f of x equals 2? Explain how you determined your answer. Remember with this one, it's important here to remember that f of x equals 2 is the same as y equals 2. And you can think of that as a horizontal line through the point y equals 2. All right? Just like I did there. Because when it says how many solutions would exist for this equation, we're trying to find how many x values, that's what they mean by solutions, how many x values would give us a function value of 2. So basically, how many points on this graph have an x value, have a y value of 2? And you can see from my horizontal line here, there are 3. 3 solutions. And you had to explain something about looking at the graph, drawing that line through. seeing that there's 3 points that have a function value or y value of 2, some kind of explanation to tell me that. Okay? And just because there's only 4 points that they actually clearly showed on here, those are not the only points on the function. Okay? Everywhere that you see connected, so everywhere on this curve and these lines, those are points that are on this function. And it's 3 of those that solve f of x equal to 2. All right? Letter D, if g of x equals x squared minus 4 over 10, then determine the value of g of f of 5. So again, another composition here. But first, working with the graph, f of 5. What is this function equal to when x equals 5? So f of 5, find that x equals 5 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So f of 5 equals 8. That then becomes our input into this g of x. So I do g of 8 equals 8 squared minus 4 over 10, which comes out to 64 minus 4 over 10, which equals 6. Okay, nice composition there. First input of 5 gives the first output of 8, which becomes our second input to get our final output and composition value. And the last one, explain why the function f of x will not have an inverse that is also a function. I'll just explain this real quick. That is simply because this function is not one-to-one. And we know from past couple lessons that only a function that is one-to-one will have an inverse that is also a function. Since this graph up here fails the horizontal line test, it is not one-to-one, which means its inverse will not be a function. Okay, a lot of people said that its inverse will not pass the vertical line test. And that is true, but I wanted to know, for full credit, I wanted to know how you knew that. Okay, it wasn't enough just to say the inverse would fail the vertical line test. Okay, you would know that because its original function fails the horizontal line test. So then, yes, the inverse would fail the vertical line test. But I really needed to hear something about the original not being one-to-one or the original failing the horizontal line test in order to get full credit. Okay, so that is me explaining your quest answers, quest questions. Hopefully you guys, the things that went wrong during the quest, hopefully you understand them better now. And I would always say, if you still have questions, please check in with me for office hours before you retake. Okay, the whole point of going through this with me now is so that you understand better, so you can do better on the retake. Okay, the retake, whatever you get on that will be your score. Because you have to be confident that you know it better the second time around. Okay, so that's up to you to make sure of. Make it happen.